Far away in the deepest part of the galaxy, there was an empire feared by all, the Empire of Zeltar. And at the center of this empire sat a ruler no one dared to approach. Queen Virella. She was beautiful beyond words, tall, with glowing, silver skin, eyes like two blue stars and long hair that moved like mist, but no one could touch her, literally. Those who tried, even her own people, became sick or died. Her body gave off a strange, deadly energy. Some said it was a curse. Others believed it was the price of her power. Because of this, Virella lived, in silence. No hugs, no warmth, no love. Just cold loyalty and fearful obedience. She sat on her throne made of living crystal, high above all others, untouched by even wind. Until one day, a new prisoner was brought before her. "Bring in the human," said one of the guards. The throne room was huge, glowing with alien symbols on every wall. Soldiers stood like statues. Nobles watched from above, whispering. Two guards dragged in a human male. His clothes were torn, his face dusty, his hands were tied behind his back. Lucas Gray, a former soldier from Earth. He had been captured in a border skirmish between humans and the Zeltar Empire. The guards pushed him to his knees, but Lucas didn't bow. He looked up at the queen, with steady eyes. Everyone gasped. Queen Virella sat tall on her throne, her face still and unreadable. Her glowing eyes stared down at him. "You were told to kneel," said the head guard, striking Lucas across the face. Still, Lucas didn't lower his head. Blood ran down his lip, but he smiled slightly. "No thanks," he said. "I don't kneel for tyrants." A deadly silence fell over the room. The nobles whispered with fear. The guards stepped back, expecting the queen to burn him alive on the spot. But she didn't. Instead, she stood. Everyone froze. It was the first time Queen Virella had stood from her throne in months. She walked slowly down the steps. Her footsteps made the ground hum with strange energy. Even her own guards moved back, afraid. Only Lucas stayed still. She stopped just 2 feet in front of him. "Why does my presence not hurt you?" she asked. Her voice was calm, like soft thunder. Lucas shrugged. "Feels warm, not painful. Kind, of like a sun on a spring day." The nobles gasped again. No one ever described the queen as warm. Queen Virella stared into Lucas's eyes, confused for the first time in years. "Interesting," she said softly. "Take him to the royal cell. I want him kept alive." The guards hesitated. "My queen, he is dangerous. He disrespected you." She raised one hand, and the guard immediately fell silent. "Alive," she repeated. Lucas chuckled as they pulled him away. "Guess I made an impression." Queen Virella returned to her throne, but her mind was no longer calm. For the first time in centuries, she felt something strange. Curiosity. That night, deep in the royal tower, Lucas sat in a cell. But it wasn't dark or dirty. The walls were smooth. The bed was soft. It was more like a royal guest room than a prison. He leaned against the wall, looking out at the twin moons through the window. Suddenly the door opened. 2 figures walked, in Queen Virella, and an alien scientist named Zareth, her top advisor. Zareth's eyes were full of fear. "This is a mistake, my queen, he is dangerous." But Virella stepped closer. "I want answers." She walked up to Lucas, who now stood up, surprised. "You didn't faint. You didn't burn. You didn't scream. Do you know what that means?" Lucas shrugged. "I'm built different." She tilted her head. "It means, you might be the first." Lucas raised an eyebrow. "First what?" "The first who can touch me and live." She turned her back and walked toward the door, her voice echoing in the quiet chamber. "I will see you again, Lucas Gray." And then she left. Lucas stood there stunned. He didn't know what just happened, but something told him. His life had just changed forever. The next morning, the royal chamber was full of whispers. Nobles spoke in low voices. High commanders stood with stiff backs. The queen's advisors looked uneasy. The name Lucas Gray echoed through every hallway, the human who did not kneel. The human who did not die, the one who looked the queen in the eyes, and lived. Inside the throne room, Queen Virella sat on her crystal seat, her silver armor catching the light. Her glowing blue eyes were calm, but her thoughts were not. She had not slept. All night, she kept seeing the human's face. Strong, rough, but not afraid. His words replayed in her mind. Feels warm, not painful. No one had ever said that to her. No one had ever dared. She pressed a button on her chair. Bring him. Lucas was escorted back into the throne room, but this time, he walked on his own, no chains, no force, just silent eyes watching him from every side. He stopped in front of the throne, but again he did not kneel. The guards looked ready to strike, but Virella raised her hand. Leave us, she said. Everyone froze. My queen, one of the nobles began. I said, leave us. The throne room emptied in seconds. Now only she and Lucas remained. He looked around and gave a small smirk. Private talk? That's a new one. Virella stood from her throne and stepped down the stairs. Do you know how many species have tried to stand before me without protection? She asked. Lucas raised an eyebrow. Let me guess. None? She stopped in front of him. One. You. He smiled slightly. Guess I'm special. Virella looked at him closely. You are. But not just because you can touch me. There's something inside you. Something calm, unafraid. Lucas shrugged. I've seen war. Lost. People. Fear gets boring after a while. She stared at him, and for a moment her voice dropped to a whisper. I haven't touched another soul in over 300 years. Lucas's smile faded. That's a long time to be alone. Virella looked away. I was not born cursed. I was born normal. My body changed after the ritual of ascension. I became queen, but also untouchable. Lucas stepped a little closer. Sounds like a bad trade. Her eyes flicked back to him, surprised he'd speak so simply. No one has ever spoken to me like this. He chuckled. Maybe no one had the guts. She tilted her head. Or maybe no one ever cared. Silence filled the room again. Then she turned and began walking away. But before leaving, she spoke without looking back. I will see you again. Tomorrow. Same time. Lucas watched her leave, a strange feeling growing in his chest. He had met queens before. Generals. Leaders. But none like her. That night, across the palace, strange things began to stir. In a secret chamber, advisor Zareth met with two high-ranking nobles. This human is dangerous, one of them hissed. He weakens her power. No, Zareth replied. He changes her. The other noble slammed his fist. The people will fear her less. We will lose control. Zareth's eyes narrowed. Then we must remove him, quietly. Plans were set. Assassins were summoned. The human would not survive the week. Meanwhile, in the quiet of his room, Lucas stood at the window, looking up at Zaltar's twin moons. The stars above blinked like tiny watching eyes. He didn't know it yet. But his life was no longer just his own. The queen had noticed him. The court feared him. And tomorrow, for reasons he didn't understand, he would be asked to sit beside her throne. The next day, the royal court was unusually silent. Every noble had heard the rumor. Queen Virella was calling the human to sit beside her. No alien, no warrior, no servant had ever been allowed that close. Not in centuries. The air was heavy with jealousy, fear, and something new. Change. Lucas was brought into the throne room again. This time he wore fresh clothes, simple but clean. His wrists were free. His head was held high. As he walked toward the throne, he noticed something different. No guard stood in his way, and the queen was already standing. She held out her hand. Everyone watching behind the high glass walls leaned closer. Lucas looked at her hand, glowing with the same strange light as before. That light had once killed warriors, burned diplomats, scared enemies. He reached out and held it. The court gasped. The queen didn't pull away. In fact, her glow dimmed, and her face looked calmer than ever before. She led him to the side of the throne and nodded. "You will sit here," she said softly. Lucas looked around. "Not going to make some alien general angry with this?" "I already have," she replied. He smiled, then sat beside her. After the court ended, Queen Varela took Lucas to the Royal Research Tower. Inside, glowing tubes lined the walls and quiet machines hummed with power. There, the top alien scientist, nervous but loyal, waited with equipment. "Why am I here?" Lucas asked. "To understand you," Varela answered. "To understand why you can touch me." A small scanner passed over his skin. The readings blinked red, then green, then back to red. Sareth, the lead scientist, frowned. "His DNA is unstable, but not dangerous. It's adapting, constantly." "Adapting to what?" Lucas asked. Sareth glanced at the queen, then back at the scanner. "To her." Queen Varela stepped forward. "Your body is not resisting my energy. It's accepting it, changing with it. That has never happened before." Lucas scratched his head. "Well, maybe your magic just likes me." "It's not magic," she said. "It's ancient energy from before our empire's birth. I was born normal, like you. But after the ascension ritual, everything changed." She walked to the glass window and stared into space. "I was chosen to rule. But the power came with a curse. Everyone I loved faded away. My guards can't touch me. My people only see me from far away. I am a symbol, not a person." Lucas stepped beside her. "And now?" She looked at him. "Now you touch me, and I feel alive." He didn't speak. He didn't need to. In that silence, something passed between them. Not love, not yet, but recognition. A quiet truth. Two lonely souls on different worlds who saw each other. That night, Queen Varela returned to her private chamber. She looked into the mirror. Her silver skin shimmered softly. For the first time in years, her reflection didn't feel cold. She raised her hand and touched her own cheek. No pain. Was he healing her? Was it even possible? She closed her eyes and remembered his voice, his stubborn eyes, his simple laugh. Then, for the first time since her childhood, she dreamed. And in that dream, he was standing beside her, far across the palace. Lucas lay in his bed staring at the ceiling. He should have been scared. This was a dangerous world. People were watching him. He knew someone would try to kill him soon, but he wasn't afraid. He thought about the queen, about how her hand felt warm, not deadly, and about how her eyes softened when she looked at him. Something deep inside him whispered, "She's not the one who needs saving. Maybe you are." In the shadows, three cloaked figures moved quietly through the halls of the upper tower. One of them held a dagger made of black crystal. "He touches the queen," the assassin whispered. "That ends tomorrow." In the great halls of the Zaltar Palace, jealousy grew like poison. The nobles whispered behind tall silver curtains. Generals watched with sharp eyes. Advisors exchanged silent glances. And in every corner, one name echoed again and again. Lucas Gray. The human. The outsider. The one who touched her. For generations, Queen Varela had stood alone. Cold. Unreachable. Worshipped like a god, yet never loved like a woman. But now, she had changed. She smiled more. She walked among her people. Her energy no longer burned with pain, it shimmered softly with calm light, and the cause of this change sat quietly by her side every day. A human, a simple man. To the people, he was a miracle. To the nobles, he was a threat. That morning, in a secret council room lit by blue fire, 3 nobles met in silence. "Look at her," one hissed. "She listens to him. She feels because of him." "The people whisper that she is becoming soft," said another. "He is breaking the sacred order," growled the third. "He must be removed." They nodded in agreement. The order was given. Kill the human. Back in the royal garden, Queen Virella and Lucas walked under a sky filled with twin suns. The garden was a sacred place, alive with glowing trees, singing plants, and floating crystal birds. No one had entered it in over 100 years, until now. Lucas looked around in awe. "This place is alive." Virella smiled softly. "It's connected to my spirit. When I'm angry, it grows wild. When I'm calm, it sings." Lucas stepped beside a tree that shimmered blue. "So what's it saying now?" She looked at him with gentle eyes. "It's singing your name." Lucas chuckled. "You're serious?" "Very." A quiet pause settled between them. Then she said something unexpected. "This garden was where I last saw my mother. She kissed me goodbye before the ascension. I never saw her again." Lucas looked at her. "She gave you away for a crown?" Virella nodded. "It was tradition, but it felt like being broken." Lucas didn't speak. Instead, he took a slow step forward and reached out his hand. She looked down at it, nervous. Then slowly, she placed her hand in his. No pain, no burning, just warmth. She looked into his eyes. "You are the first." He nodded. "And I won't be the last." Later that night, Lucas returned to his chamber. He felt lighter, even happy. He thought about her smile, her voice, the way the garden shimmered when she laughed. But something felt off. He stepped inside, and the lights flickered. Then, a blade flew past his ear, slicing the wall behind him. He ducked fast. A cloaked figure charged from the shadows. Lucas rolled, grabbed a metal pipe, and blocked the next strike. Clang, another. Blade came. Lucas caught the attacker's arm and slammed his fist into their jaw. The assassin dropped, gasping, but a second one leapt from the ceiling. Lucas turned, but too late. A sharp blade pierced his side. He gasped, fell to his knees. Blood spilled onto the floor. The assassin raised the dagger for the final strike. Flash. The door exploded open with blinding light. Queen Virella stood there. Her body glowed bright with pure energy, her face filled with fury. She raised one hand, and the assassin froze mid-strike. The air around him bent, his bones cracked. In seconds, he dropped, lifeless. She ran to Lucas, kneeling beside him. "Don't move," she whispered. He coughed. You came." She held his hand tightly. "I felt your pain. Through the soul link." "Soul link?" he asked weakly. "Our bond," she said, voice trembling. "It's real." In the royal healing chamber, Virella sat beside Lucas's bed, her hand resting on his. Her glow surrounded him like a shield. He opened his eyes slowly. "You didn't leave," he said. "I won't ever again." She leaned close. "I can feel you now, Lucas, your breath, your fear, your strength. Whatever is happening between us, why, it's not a mistake." Lucas squeezed her hand gently, then let it happen. High above, the nobles watched from a secret room. Their plan had failed. And now, the queen had chosen him. They would not try again with knives. Next time they would use something worse, lies. The queen's chamber had never been entered by anyone, until tonight. The door opened silently, revealing soft golden light. Inside, Queen Virella stood near the center of the room, surrounded by floating orbs of light, glowing calmly with her energy. Her long silver robe moved gently as if the air itself danced for her. Lucas stood at the threshold, his side still wrapped in healing cloth from the assassination attempt. He was weak but alive. He stared at her in quiet wonder. She turned. "You came," she said softly. "I told you I would." She stepped forward slowly. "Tonight, I want to show you something. Something no one else has seen in over 300 years. Lucas tilted his head. "What is it?" Her voice trembled just slightly. "Me." She raised her hands, and without a word, began removing the armor that had hidden her for centuries. Piece by piece, the royal plates fell to the floor, light but heavy with history. When the final layer dropped, she stood there in a simple, soft gown. No crown, no glowing energy field, no mask of power, just her. Her skin shimmered gently like stardust. Her eyes, usually cold and strong, now looked unsure. Vulnerable. "I don't want to be a queen tonight," she whispered. "I just want to be a woman." Lucas took a slow step forward. "Then be one." She closed her eyes. "I've never let anyone close without pain. Not once. I don't know what will happen if you touch me like this." Lucas reached out. "Let's find out." And then, his hand touched her cheek. Warmth. Pure. Gentle. Real. No burn. No pain. No energy blast. Just touch. Queen Virella gasped quietly, her eyes flying open. She reached up and placed her hand over his, and for the first time in her life, she felt nothing but peace. She leaned into his touch. Her lips trembled. Her heart beat faster. A single tear slipped down her cheek. "I thought I would never feel this again," she said. "But you make me real." Lucas's voice was barely a whisper. "You were never anything less." They stood together in silence, his hand on her cheek, hers on his chest, and around them, the glowing orbs dimmed, and then burst into pure white light, not from power, but from love. Outside in the main hall, guards and servants looked up in shock as the walls of the palace began to pulse with light. The great sky dome shimmered. The stars above looked brighter. The queen's energy had changed, and the entire empire felt it. Back in the chamber, Queen Virella stepped back, holding Lucas's hand. "I want to share this with my people. I want them to see me as I truly am. Not a weapon, not a goddess, just a living being." Lucas nodded. "Then let's show them." She smiled. "Tomorrow I will walk outside without armor, without guards, for the first time in my rule." Lucas raised an eyebrow. "That'll make the nobles nervous." "Good," she said. "Let them be nervous." But far across the palace, in a chamber hidden by shadows, the nobles were already planning their next move. She removed her armor. One whispered, "For him." "She will stand exposed," said another. "If she dies tomorrow, the empire returns to us." The third leaned forward. "Then we strike in the open." The next morning, the empire would see a sight that would change its history. The untouchable queen would walk among her people. And beside her, holding her hand, human, the sun rose over the shining towers of Zeltar, casting a golden glow across the capital. For the first time in centuries, the people gathered outside the palace walls, not for war, not for orders, but for something no one ever expected. The Queen was coming out, without armor, without guards, without fear. Word had spread like fire. Queen Virella, the untouchable monarch, the silver ghost, was going to walk among her people, and by her side would be the human. Lucas stood beside her, just inside the palace gate. He looked across the sea of glowing alien faces, curious, silent, tense. He could feel the pressure in the air. A single wrong step, and the crowd could turn into a storm. "Are you ready?" he asked. Virella didn't answer right away. She looked At the sky, the towers, the people, and then at him. "I was born in this city," she whispered. "But this is the first time I'll live in it." She took his hand. "Now I'm ready." The gates opened, and history changed. The queen walked forward slowly, her long silver robe flowing behind her. Her hair shimmered in the morning light. She glowed softly, but not with power, with life, and in her hand, gently held, was his. The crowd didn't cheer, they didn't kneel, they just watched, silent, breathless. Children stared with wide eyes. Elders wept without knowing why. But deep in the heart of the watching crowd, danger moved. Among the nobles in the balcony, Zareth and his allies prepared their final strike. "She is exposed. Now," whispered one. A hooded figure moved through the crowd, hand on a hidden weapon made from darkstone, one of the few materials that could pierce the queen's flesh. He stepped forward, quietly, carefully. Then he raised the blade. But someone saw him first, Lucas. His instinct screamed. He turned, eyes locking with the assassin. "No!" He shoved Varela aside just as the blade came down. Slash. Blood splashed across the stones, but it wasn't hers. Lucas staggered back, the dark blade buried deep in his chest. He dropped to his knees, gasping. The crowd screamed. The assassin raised the weapon again. But this time, Queen Varela's scream shook the sky. Everything stopped. Time felt frozen. The wind went still, her eyes blazed white. Her hair lifted with raw force. The ground cracked under her feet. She floated above the street, arms outstretched, her body glowing like a star being born. "You hurt him," she whispered. "Now feel what I feel." With a wave of her hand, the assassin was lifted into the air, screaming. His weapon turned to dust. His body began to shimmer like it was melting into light. But then, Lucas coughed. "Varela." Her glow faded slightly. She looked down, shocked. "You're still alive?" He gritted his teeth, blood still flowing. "Don't lose yourself, you're not a monster." She floated down beside him, falling to her knees. "I thought I lost you," she said, voice shaking. "You didn't," he whispered. "I said I'd stay." She pressed her glowing hand to his chest. Light pulsed through his body. Her power, once deadly, now healed. Around them, the people fell silent again, not in fear, but in awe. They had seen a queen rage like fire, and then cry like a woman, and heal like a goddess. Lucas opened his eyes fully as the wound closed. "You saved me." She smiled through tears. "No, you saved me." He reached up and wiped her cheek. The crowd watched. And then slowly, one by one, they knelt. Not because they were forced, but because they saw love. Not just a ruler, not just a warrior, but a queen with a human heart. High above, Zareth fled. The palace. He knew what was coming. The people had chosen, and the empire would never be the same. The palace was quiet now. No alarms, no marching soldiers, no cold silence of fear. Instead, soft winds moved through open halls. The garden bloomed with light. The people stood peacefully in the courtyards, whispering stories of what they had seen. Of a queen reborn, of a human who bled for her, of love that changed everything. Lucas lay in the royal chamber, wrapped in warm golden light. The wound on his chest had closed, but he was still weak. His eyes fluttered open to see her sitting beside him, Queen Varela. But today she wore no crown, no armor, not even her glowing robes. She sat in a simple gown, her long silver hair braided gently behind her shoulders. She looked like the stars, but also like a woman who had finally found her heart. "You're awake," she whispered. He smiled. Barely. She reached for his hand, and he let her hold it. "I should be angry," she said quietly. "At the nobles, at Zareth, at this empire that made me a weapon." "But you're not?" Lucas asked. She shook her head. I'm done being angry. I just want to live. To feel. To choose. He watched her for a moment. Then choose, he said. You're free. She looked at him, surprised. You don't want to rule with me? I didn't come here to wear a crown, Lucas said. I don't belong to anyone, not your court, not your empire. He leaned in closer. But I want to stay. With you. Her heart skipped. I've ruled for centuries, she said softly. But I've never belonged to anyone. Never let anyone in. Lucas sat up slowly, his hand still in hers. I don't want a queen, he said. I want the woman who let me hold her hand in a garden. The one who cried when she thought I was dying. The one who took off her armor and let herself be touched. She didn't speak. Tears filled her glowing eyes. Then she whispered the words only he was ever meant to hear. Then I belong to you. That evening, the people gathered under the twin moons of Zaltar. A platform was raised in the center of the city square. All waited, wondering what the queen would say. But when she stepped forward, she wasn't alone. Lucas stood beside her, not behind her, not below her, beside her. She raised her hand, and the crowd fell silent. I have ruled. With strength. With fear. With distance, she said. But fear cannot build forever. Strength means nothing without love. She turned to Lucas. This man walked into my empire as a prisoner and touched my heart as a free soul. The people watched in silence as she turned back to them. He is not your king, he is not your master, he belongs to no one, but I choose to belong to him. She stepped down from the platform, walked into the crowd and lifted Lucas's hand into the air. And the people cheered, not out of duty, but from the heart. High above the palace, the old council room stood empty. The nobles were gone. Fear was gone. Only the future remained. That night, in the quiet of the royal chamber, Lucas and Varela stood side by side at the balcony, looking at the stars. You sure you want me here? He asked. I never wanted anything more, she replied. Then she leaned her head on his shoulder. The stars above blinked. The world turned, and somewhere deep in the galaxy, a queen's curse was broken. Not by power, not by war, but by one human's heart.